Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for joining me on my podcast this afternoon of Beyond the Scoreboard. I'm your host, Tommy B., and joining me today is the head athletic coach, the athletic director, almost everything you can think of that's involved out here with the Big Spring ISD, Coach Cannon McWilliams. Thank you for joining me today.
Yes, sir. Hey, thank you for having me.
Yes, sir. So, Coach, we're going to get it started off. I just wanted to read this. The definition of the word coach: a person who trains an athlete or a team of athletes, which is what you are. Thank you for everything you do. You're very important to these kids. They'll always remember you and always be proud to call you coach. So, like I say, thank you for that.
Yes, sir. Thank you very much. I'm glad to be a part of a small part of it, of their athletic journey.
Yes, sir. And I'm going to express a little feelings of how I feel towards you coaches, because I've coached a little bit of youth sports. I don't think people see the countless hours, the countless effort, you being out late, being away from home, trying to get things right, trying to get these kids ready, programmed, everything good to go. Friday night lights, whether it's volleyball, soccer, softball, whatever it is, everything y'all do is amazing. And like I say, it goes unmatched, and thank you once again.
Thank you very much.
So, okay, Coach, explain to us, who is Cannon McWilliams?
I think I'm a product of what I was brought up into as far as the environment. Both my parents earned education. Dad being a coach, my mom was a elementary teacher, and so growing up, I was always around the game, always around the school building and things like that. And then once I got into high school and started thinking about a career after the game, that's kind of the only thing I wanted to be, was to follow in my dad's footsteps, my granddad's footsteps, my uncle's footsteps, and being involved in kids' lives. And, obviously football being a big part of it, but there's so much more that, you think until you get involved in it, that there's so much more that goes on that you're involved in, and hopefully shaping young athletes as far as for better in the future, if that makes sense. But as far as my background, grew up around the game, around the schoolhouse. Luckily, like I said, we moved probably 5, 6, 7 different times, as coaches do. I think that made me stronger mentally, because I had to adjust to change and new surroundings from time to time, and that's just part of the business. But again, I was lucky enough to be around the field house, be around kids, and being around just what it meant to be a team. And then once it came time for me to choose a profession and what I wanted to do with my life, I really didn't have a choice. That's what I wanted to do.
Yes, sir. And like I say, the beginning of this, it's going to be a little bit about you, Coach. Where did you grow up, Coach?
So that's a kind of a tricky question, because I started, I was born in Andrews. Okay, don't hold that against me. But no, I was born in Andrews, Texas. We then moved to Granbury. Okay, then we moved to Harper. We actually lived 1 year in Big Spring, went to Kahoma, and Dad coached at Water Valley, and then went to Eden. And then, so if you ask me where my hometown is, the longest we ever stayed anywhere from 8th grade on was McCamey High School.
Yes, sir. I believe I've seen some good stuff of you. We're going to get to that, but going back to McCamey, because that's where I've seen most of your highlights. Your father posted on Facebook quite back in the day when you were a young athlete. Obviously, what sports did you play growing up?
So we were a little bit smaller school compared to probably a Forsan Kahoma, kind of in between there. And so at a smaller school, we tried to play everything that we can. So, the main ones being football, basketball, track, and baseball. I also played golf. And it's just one of those deals to where if at a smaller school, you want to get as many people competing, but also most of your kids try to do everything. And I was fortunate enough to work with some really good coaches that allowed you and made things work. Like, for example, baseball was after school, so I would do my track workout in the morning, basically with another coach that made that possible. So growing, like I said, in my high school career, I played a bunch of different sports. It depended on what season it was what my favorite sport was at the time.
Yes, sir. And like sticking with your high school sports, what are some of your achievements you achieved back in high school? I know you've got a lot of them. I know there's a lot.
And I really don't like talking a whole bunch about that. Like I said, I was blessed with good coaches and good teammates around me.
Yes, sir.
So again, quarterback of the high school football team, and I don't want to mention any accolades. We did some good things. We were able to go to the third round of the playoffs, beat Iran for the first time in 13 or 14 years, and then basketball, kind of the same. Second and third round of the playoffs, and then baseball-wise, same thing. I was blessed enough my junior year to run at the state track meet in Austin at the 100-meter dash. But those are just some of the few things. But again, it wasn't really about me. It was about the people that surrounded me. I had good coaches and good teammates that helped me to be successful.
Yes, sir. And also moving forward, how many years have you been coaching now?
Oh, so I just started year number 16.
Awesome.
And now more than half of my career has been here. And it has been a huge blessing. Like I said, I started year number 9 here, and then I was a nomad. Coming out of college, I was at Merchant Arion County, which is now a 6-man school. Went up to Muleshoe, worked with a good AD there, David Wood, who is now retired. The stadium's named after him. And then went down to Belleville with Grady Rowe for a year, and then ended up at Andrews for a year, and then Sonora for 2. So early in my career, I moved around a lot. It was a lot easier then because I was single, so you didn't have to really worry about anybody else.
Yes, sir.
But blessed to work for some really good ADs and take things that I learned from them and now implement them here. There's always things you like, things you don't like, but take the good stuff that you liked and implement it with what we're doing here now.
Yes, sir. Now that you said you're now a family man, of course, I know you're married and you have one son, correct, Coach?
Yes, one son.
So what are your goals as far as him playing any sports at a young age? What do you have set for him?
Right now he's big into soccer. Now, I wouldn't know how to teach him how to play soccer, so I've learned a little bit about it, but that's what he's big into. And, he started basketball last year, started t-ball last year as well. He's had 2 years in soccer. But as far as him, I want him to find something that he enjoys. Hopefully it's football, but if it's not, that's fine.
Yes, sir.
Okay, but whatever he enjoys, and again, he wants to push himself towards, hopefully I'm able to help him develop as much as I can. But as far as right now he's 4, fixing to be 5, picking a particular sport. No, I want him to try everything, whatever he likes, whatever he wants to do, then I'll support him. If for some reason he doesn't like any sports, okay, I'm not going to force my child to do that. Whatever he's into, I'll get behind and I'll support him any way I can.
Yes, sir. And there's not many people that are like you that have played under Friday Night Lights and also coached under Friday Night Lights. How does that feel?
And, playing, there's not a, as far as in high school, there's not a, I guess I can say better feeling or emotional feeling or a higher high than playing on Friday nights. Where I graduated from, the town shut down, everybody showed up, and it was a real community. That's what you did on Friday nights. And as far as a player, there was nothing like going out and representing whatever hometown you were a part of. And that was exciting. Obviously there's always ups and downs, but the wins were great. But biggest thing was just being a part of a group that was able to put it on the line every Friday night and also know the work that goes into it. That's some of the highlights of my high school career, being able to play on Friday nights, because you had to go through the tough things probably starting Saturday through Thursday to get to Friday night, and Friday night was kind of your payday. And I was blessed to do that and blessed to be a part of that.
Yes, sir. And last thing about you, Coach, give me your idol and your favorite athlete of all time. Let's start with your idol. Who's your idol?
Oh, man. Oh, I've got a few, but I'm just going to start with both of my grandparents. Okay, so my granddad, my dad's dad, was a longtime coach, longtime educator, and I actually lived with him for 1 year in college. And just being able, he modeled and again, I don't follow it all the time. I try to, but he was a great role model for me growing up, and he had millions of coaching stories and educational stories and what he had been through, the highs and the lows of it. And he's got a great perspective of how to zoom out and just he modeled a behavior that I would like to follow, as far as just being a good man, being a good human being, and treating kids the right way.
Yes, sir.
And then he went into being an elementary principal, which is wild, but he enjoyed that. And so that's one of them. The other one is my mom's dad. Played football at LSU. But what sticks out to me about him is, and I'm sure people know now with Google, but in the 80s, he went through a really tough time. Spent some time in prison. But then once he got out, came out of it and really showed the resilience, when everybody can't stand you, talks bad about you. And really, he had a great redemption story. Ended up being a dentist at the Angola State Prison and helping revamp the dentist program. And so he's really just kind of taught me, I didn't get to see him as much, but modeled how to overcome, because there are going to be bad things and terrible things, sometimes self-inflicted, that happen in your life. But he's kind of a story of how to get back up and get going again, because at the end of his life, he was able to, help revamp a dental program for prisoners.
Yes, sir.
And they loved him.
That's awesome. And as far as your favorite athlete, outside of your family members, who would you say is somebody you love to watch?
Favorite athlete, and one, so let me preface this by saying, unfortunately or fortunately, I was growing up in Granbury, which is about 40 to 45 miles from Dallas, in the early 90s. So I was am a huge Cowboys fan.
Yes.
Well, it was easy to be a Cowboys fan back then,
of course,
right?
Yes,
you had 3 Super Bowls in 4 years. So carrying that on, my favorite probably all-time athlete, and this is going to sound crazy, is Tony Romo.
Hey, he's a heck of a golfer. He's a heck of an athlete.
He is. He is. And a couple different times, if certain things go the right way, I think he would have, won a Super Bowl. But again, another guy that just shows resilience to keep coming up. He had to bounce back from, they're fixing to beat the Seahawks, and he's trying to hold the field goal, and he fumbles it.
Yes.
And so all the criticism that came with that, and it's going to happen anyway, but the criticism that just comes with being the Dallas Cowboys quarterback and able to push through that and still have good teams, but still was not able to get over the hump. But no, he is probably if you had to say it, probably all-time favorite athlete.
Good choice. I always tell people, if Romo would have had a defense, he probably would have won a Super Bowl.
He was kind of the duct tape that held it all together for a long time. And then when they finally got, offensive line protection and a defense around him, he got hurt. Well, then Dak steps in. They couldn't take Dak out because I think they went 13-3 or something like that.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
So now let's switch it up from Coach Cannon. Now let's talk about your program, Coach. So my first question is, I know you've got a great staff. Tell me a little bit about your coaches.
Man, we are very fortunate because a lot of the males and females that are on staff right now have now been with us for 6, 7, 8 years. And I think that just bodes well for as far as the Big Spring school system, for our coaching in general, which means, because in the coaching profession, probably, an average coach lasts to place 2 or 3 years at max. And we've got some that are pushing 10 years. And I think that's because how they're treated over at the high school with Mike Ritchie. You will not find a better high school principal. And hopefully on the coaching staff. We talk about different things. We want to put the work in, but we also don't want to take away from your family time. So I just think people are treated right. And if you do your job, then people let you alone and they let you do your job.
Yes, sir. And about your coaches, let me ask you about Coach Tuttle. He's somebody I don't know personally, but I've seen him around. My boys go to school here. They're athletics and everything. But Coach Tuttle, I always see him motivated, fired around. He looks like somebody that generally, he just draws attention from, his athletes. They love him. Every time I see him, he's always motivated. How long has Coach Tuttle been with you?
Coach Tuttle was here when I got here, but even before that, this is the only place Coach Tuttle's ever been. So I think he started in around 2008, 2009, somewhere around there, and he's been here ever since. I think he's got 18 years in or something like that. But Coach Tuttle is the ultimate kid magnet. He brings constant positive energy. Kids gravitate towards him, and he does a fantastic job. In fact, like right now, he'll do things that you don't even have to ask him to do. Like right now, so tonight, we've got our helmets and heroes.
Yes, sir.
He's in there working on how to get these decals on there because it's going to be a little bit tougher this year. So that's just an example of what Coach Tuttle will do. He's also our head girls basketball coach, but he goes above and beyond what you would ask him to do, and also just being positive out in the community.
Yes, sir, and I definitely see that. Now, let me ask you, what kind of fall sports does Big Spring have right now? What's going on for fall?
We got a bunch. So right now we've got cross country going on. Okay, we've got volleyball, we've got fall tennis, and then we're fixing to start up soccer and then basketball go. But as far as actually starting right now, again, we've got, and believe it or not, we've got a fall golf tournament coming up as well.
Yes, sir.
But we've got cross country, volleyball, and football that have already started, and fall tennis.
How are the volleyball girls doing at the moment?
Volleyball is doing well. Again, they returned, I believe, almost everybody off of last year's team, with maybe the exception of one or two. And after watching them for a few games and a few tournaments, I think the sky's the limit. They're still working out some kinks as far as rotation. That's going to happen early in the year. And but when they get it all worked out and figured out and continue to play as a team, I think they got a good shot to go to the playoffs and then make a run or so.
Yes, sir. So let's talk about some things outside of athletics.
Okay.
Some groups I would like to recognize because they don't get recognized much. They're kind of the unseen heroes of Friday Night Lights, just in general. So first, we're going to start with band.
Right.
How is band tied in with you, with the band director? Do y'all communicate quite a bit? Do y'all get things together for Friday Night Lights, or just whatever it is involving athletics?
I wouldn't say we don't communicate a ton, but we do communicate things like, because we do share kids. So we make sure that if a kid is marching, when he's going to be able to march and things like that. As far as one, Gabe Martinez and his staff do a great job. Our band is always good.
Yes, sir.
You saw that, just a brief glimpse of it at the community pep rally, and we've got a bunch of kids involved. And it's tough because you saw that even at the community pep rally last night. Like, we were done at about 8:30, and then they had practice after that. They're also practicing right before lunch, which is in the heat of the day out here on the field. And to me, they kind of go hand in hand. He does a good job. They bring the energy. If you take the band out of a football game, it doesn't feel right. Yeah. Because even when you're warming up, they're warming up. And so when they start going, you're like, okay, it's about time. So Mr. Martinez does a good job. Our kids do a good job. And we do a good job as far as sharing people. We're never going to try to, discourage somebody from playing in the band, such as Caleb Hansen. No, if you want to play in the band, we'll make it work.
Do both.
It'll be on us to make it work. You're not going to have to make it work. You're not going to get punished for going and doing something band related, like during the school day. Same I expect from him. So we do a good job with that. So
another group, your trainers.
Oh,
tell me a little bit about the head trainer and that staff, and the student athletes as well.
One, our head trainer does a fantastic job. You never know how much you need a trainer until you don't have one.
Yes, sir.
So 2 years ago, we had two. We lost one in the summertime, okay, and then we lost one like the second week of football season. So then you've got to worry about contracting out, and that's not even day-to-day like we have right now. And then if you have a problem, well, then it falls on me. And there's so much that goes into it. And he's done a good job, and he also is at almost everything. And our student trainers are just as valuable. I mean, they're the ones filling up the water bottles. They're the ones making sure everything's ready and set before we start practice at 6. So they're here just as early as football. They're here, if not earlier, and they're getting everything ready to go so that we can practice.
Yes, sir.
So without them, that would put even more stress on coaches and stuff like that, because I've been at schools. You don't have a trainer. You don't have student athletic trainers. So the coaches are doing all the stuff that they're doing right now. And I do want to preach that sometimes I feel like at bigger schools, you take that for granted to where if you don't have that, that's a lot more work on your work plate. But they do a good job, and they do a good job of making sure that everybody, if they need water, they can get it. If somebody goes down, we check him out. Again, Doc does a fantastic job on that. If he can get them back, in a timely manner, he does that. And then, the rare occasions to where somebody really gets hurt, we'll send them to he's got a doctor, and he sends them to a doctor and get them checked out. But I can't say enough about what they do, and it's really eye-opening, when you don't have one.
Yes, sir. And the last group is cheerleaders.
Cheerleaders, right.
Can you tell me a little bit about their coach, just any insight you have on the cheerleaders?
Yeah, so Coach Ramsey and her staff, I think she took over about 1.5 years ago, 2 years ago, and she has continued to do a good job with them. Again, they're another group that puts in the time, because there's also some dual sport athletes there as far as that have to work out with cheerleading and then volleyball, so they're doing double duty. But they're in here working out, sometimes in the green room, sometimes in the heat of the day, sometimes on Saturday afternoons, just getting prepared for either pep rally or game time. And again, it's one of those deals too, to where like if you don't have cheerleaders, it doesn't seem right either. There's a whole bunch of things that make Friday Night Lights what it is. So if you don't have those, it's a little different. And again, another group that works extremely hard, puts in a lot of hours. probably doesn't get as much recognition as they deserve because they still go to competitions and they compete and they go to team camps and stuff like that. So again, Coach Ramsey does a good job, and her staff. And again, we've got a lot of cheerleaders, and the more people we can get involved in extracurricular activities, the better.
Yes, sir.
The better.
Another group I left off the list, and I just thought about it, but they're very important. They make things a lot easier for, when it comes to funds and making things happen for these football teams, golf teams, your booster groups.
Oh, yes. And I'll speak on the football booster club and really booster clubs in general. So Jody Roberts is now the president of our booster club. Like, for example, they're in here. They meet Monday at 6 o'clock, I believe, and they go over different things, and a lot of it has to do with fundraising and money. Basically, they're trying to get us everything that we need if we need it.
Yes, sir.
And for example, we're going to El Paso this week. Well, they're taking care of the lunch. And so it's just little things like that. The blow up, they took care of.
Yes, sir.
Okay, our 5-man sled or our sled out here, they took care of. And again, so to where sometimes we wouldn't have the money to buy those things, they're able to help raise money and afford that to give our kids the best opportunity. And again, they're not making any money off that. They're just doing it to volunteer.
Yes, sir. And now we're going to kind of switch topic again. So a lot of questions I've had from people that have requested questions from me. So it's mainly the older generation, the older steers, the older classmen. And what is the term "the spring" to them? That's what they wanted me to ask. So I noticed that's something that started. But can you kind of just explain to them a little bit where the spring?
Really, it's just an abbreviation, or whatever you want to call it, of Big Spring.
Yes.
And in my first year here, we were on a basketball trip, and we were talking with our kids, and we were talking about another team, and basically getting ready to play. And one of them says, "Coach, don't they know we're from the spring?" I was like, "What does that mean?" "Oh, Big Spring." "Okay,
Yes.
Yeah, the spring." And they just kind of took off from there.
Yes, sir.
And we even had it on our jersey about 3 or 4 years ago. Now we've just got Big Spring on there, but that's what that means. It just means we're from Big Spring, the spring, like the whatever you would want to say. I can't think of it off the top of my head, but yeah.
It's a bunch of them old heads just wanted to know.
No, and I understand a little bit of change, but again, like I said, now if you look on our football jersey, it says Big Spring. And we've even gone back to the old school logo with the BSS.
Yes, sir.
And again, we still want to embrace that tradition. We just had that, and all it meant is we're from Big Spring. It's just another way to say it.
Yes, sir. Pretty cool. Another thing you got going is Row the Boat, which is RTB. Can you explain a little bit to that?
Yeah, and again, all coaches will tell you that they take stuff from other coaches. And it happened, I was on a trip, I forget where it was, and I saw PJ Fleck, who's the head coach now at Minnesota. He's gone to a couple different programs that hadn't won much and has turned them around. Not necessarily winning national championships, but to turn it around. And Row the Boat was taken from him. And if you watch Minnesota play, they're bringing out oars and stuff like that. And really, it's all about the team concept. Okay, because you got 3 parts of the boat, and we talk about this. One being the boat. Okay, that's the team. The bigger boat, the more sacrifice. Okay, the better you're going to be. 2 is you got the oar, okay? That's the energy part, right?
Sir.
You want everybody rowing in the same direction. If one guy falls in, okay, or stops rowing, it makes it that much harder on the rest of us.
Yes, sir.
Okay, and then you've got your compass. Where are you going? Okay, what direction are you going towards? And for us this year, obviously, we always say we want to make the playoffs. Well, we're in a 4-team district. We've already done that.
Yes, sir.
One of our directions is obviously getting better every day. Another thing is that we are still striving towards is to win that elusive district championship that hadn't been done since 1990. So that's kind of what Row the Boat, or it is what Row the Boat means. 3 components of it. And again, it was stolen from PJ Fleck. Like I said, I listened to him talk, read his book, and I thought, man, we could definitely use that here. Yes,
sir. And another cool tradition that I see started here goes back to last year. I noticed soccer wasn't a big thing here in Big Spring.
Right.
Midland, Odessa, you would talk to them and they'd be like, "Oh, we play soccer, this and that." Well, growing up here in Big Spring and going to school here, soccer was never anything outside of youth here in Big Spring. So can you give me a kind of a breakdown of how that came to light and how year 1 went for you?
So the biggest thing is we had a group of kids that were interested in starting a program, and they visited with Mr. Ritchie first. He sent them to me, and I would say it was about 10 to 20. Well, then we kind of surveyed as far as how many kids, if we started a soccer program, would play.
Yes, sir.
Well, we found out that we had a lot of interest, and which is good. And then from there on, past those numbers, Soup presents it to the board, and they luckily enough for us now, right, they passed it. So now we have soccer. And year one went great. Again, our girls under Coach Kobos got a lot better throughout the year. We're very, very, very competitive. And then our boys, I believe, were one game out of making the playoffs. And so now we've got a new head coach with Jacob Scott, and looking forward for that program to continue to grow. And I think the best thing is too, and I mentioned it with band, cheerleading, is it got people that maybe weren't involved in something extracurricular, which is great. Again, the more you can get involved, the better. And again, the statistics, I don't have them off the top of my head, but more people that are involved in things do better in school as well.
Yes, sir. And another spotlight and recognition I wanted to give to you is I noticed y'all redid the Blankenship field. It is now turf. Is it still called Blankenship? That's what it was called when I was growing up.
Sir.
So it looks amazing. So thank you for that. But now let's get to the meat of everything.
Okay.
Let's talk football. Let's talk Friday nights. So explain to me the feeling you have right now that Friday Night Lights are back. We're 2 days away. How does it feel?
No, it's exciting. Every beginning of every, new football season is exciting. And a lot of it is because you're excited just to be back around coaches and players basically 24/7. It's not 24/7, but it kind of feels like that. And the big thing is we've got a lot of people returning.
Yes, sir.
And even with the returners, we've still got a lot of underclassmen that aren't seniors that we will have for a couple more years. And the big thing is, felt like last year we overachieved. We didn't have very many. I think we lost like 9-9.
Yes, sir.
Most of those kids coming back. And I just think it's an exciting time of year. It's exciting to go on the road and play El Paso Riverside, it's always been a competitive ball game. We played them, I believe, 3 or 4 years straight in the first round of the playoffs, split 2-2, and then they got us last year. So we're playing them now for the 6th year in a row, and just excited to be back around kids, around coaches, and it's a brand new year. So whatever happened last year is last year.
Yes, sir.
And so like the senior class, our leaders, how do you want to leave your mark? And I think this year we've got a chance to do some special things.
Talk to me about some of your returning players, Coach.
Okay.
Some of your
So let's start with Jacoby Lozano. Okay, he is a wide receiver and defensive back for us, and he's a 3-year starter. And he's just kind of been a stalwart. He also returns punts. We're trying to find ways to give him a break during the game, as far as we're trying to find ways to get him off the field so he can stay as fresh as possible. He's one. Also a great kid. Another one, and I've mentioned this to many different people asking me about the year, it's going to start with our O-line and D-line. I'm excited as I've ever been about those two groups. You've got a senior returner at center in Justin Burchett.
Yes, sir.
Again, had a great year last year after his sophomore year in the first scrimmage towards ACL, and looking for big things from him. Then you flip it on the other side of the ball. You've got RJ Gomez, also a 3-year starter, preseason Dave Campbell's MVP.
Awesome.
And just looking forward to seeing what they could do, and that's just 3. And I wanted to make sure and mention those O-line and D-line guys I've talked to you previously, because they don't get enough love.
Yes, sir.
At all.
Never.
The skill kids are going to get theirs, but the offensive line and defensive line is what's going to make us go, and those are 2 key parts. There's more, but I just mentioned those 2 key parts there.
Going back to Jacoby, I coached him in youth league. He was on my Seahawks. He was on a bunch of my youth teams. And basically what you said, anything you put him at, he's going to do well. He's great defense. He's great on offense. The kid is he's an animal on the field. Can you talk to me about some of your underclassmen that have made a move up from JV to varsity?
Yeah, let's start on the offensive side, and not necessarily a move up from JV, but he's just going to be a sophomore. He started for us every game last year, and that's Isaac Perez. Again, I talked about up front. He's starting at left tackle. He's about 6'3", about 265, 270, and he can move. So I can't wait to see what this year happens. I also can't wait to see what his career ends up being, because he's got a chance to be special. Another one, didn't necessarily start last year, but again was a backup and came in and played a lot, is DJ Franks.
Yes.
DJ Franks has unlimited athletic ability. I mean, he's 6'4", about 200, runs about a 4.6 at our defensive end, and he's probably got room on his frame to put on about 40 or 50 more pounds.
Yes, sir.
And that's a few. A kid that's moved up, that's right now in contention for our starting running back, Colin Michaels. He's a sophomore, and saw some really good things in the scrimmage. Sometimes, when you get a kid that He had only played on the freshman team, move up to the varsity. Sometimes they're a little bit timid.
Yes.
He was not timid at all.
And I believe there was another, I know they've come through the Big Spring, they've played in athletics, they've been in football. One of the Rios brothers, I believe he was an underclassman as well.
Yes, so Jason Rios got moved up last year, I believe, when we played Lakeview, and now he has solidified his spot. And again, we've got a bunch of sophomores as a starting inside linebacker.
Yes.
And he's a kid that I'll never forget. We were getting ready for Lakeview, and we just couldn't block him offensively, varsity versus the JV. That week, he earned, the right to play with the varsity, and now he's just continued to get better. Another thing about Jason is he may have missed 2 days total in the summer.
Awesome.
So he wants to be good, and his motor never stops. Good defensive player, and he's one of those guys that's just a fierce competitor.
And there's a lot of kids out there, Coach, that have the talent, but they don't have the heart.
And he is one that, yes, gets after it. And like I said, in the summer, not everybody's always here. He was here almost every day.
Awesome. So tell me about your quarterback situation. Where do we stand at quarterback?
Okay, so Marcus Rios, who played 2 full games, and also played some backup time last year. So he's going to be our starting quarterback going into the season. And he's another program kid. I think he was on the 7th grade B team. 8th grade B team kept getting better and better and better. And last year versus Snyder, AJ goes down, and we don't miss a beat. And he continued to grow. Lakeview, AJ went down. He came in, 2 wins. And he has continued to get better. He works on his craft. Another kid that hardly missed a day in the summer. And just a good kid, throws a good ball, and also adds a little bit more to the run game.
Yes.
And the big thing is with him is continue to grow and also continue to try to keep him healthy.
Yes, sir. So Big Springs have got some raw talent. I've coached a lot of these kids. Rios was also another kid that played on my youth team, him and his brother. So they're both well-trained athletes. They're good at everything they do. So let me ask you this, something that's kind of changed, and I've noticed over the years just from spectating. Back when I grew up and went to school here, Andrews was our rival. You rarely see them on our schedule now as much as they used to be. It used to be a pretty big thing. We hated Andrews. Now who is kind of fallen into that role where
I would say, at least for this year, and I say that because I think we're fixing to drop to 4AD2 as far as football goes. I would say Andrews is still a pretty big rival. In fact, to me, they are the rival. Now, obviously, they've gotten the best out of us for the past 3 or 4 years. I think we beat them 4 or 5 years ago, and that was the first time in about 7. So they've been able to get the better of us the past 4 or 5 years. But I think this year, we've got as good a chance as we've had in the past 10 to 15 years. Now, obviously, we've got to have some things go right. We've got to continue to have good practices and kids stay that are with us right now and not fall off. And if we do that and continue to get better, we've got a chance. But you say that, I still consider Andrews as the main rival. I would say Snyder is a little bit of a rival. And now because we play Lakeview and everything, Lakeview could be considered a rival. But I would say the biggest rival still is Andrews.
Going back to, of course, football, you got to have a lot of strong players on that line, offense and defense. Kind of off subject from football, I noticed powerlifting has also gained a lot of attention around here. Can you give me a little bit about some of your power lifters that you have?
Yeah, so Coach Sawyer Roberts has been our head coach for the past 3 or 4 years. And he has done a great job, not with just the boys, but the boys and girls. We had a state champion last year in Quisette Woodruff. And, like Josiah Cavazos, he's one of our running backs. He was a regional powerlifter last year. And that program has grown immensely.
Yes,
in fact, when they start, they start at 6 a.m., usually in December. It is wall-to-wall folks in there.
Yes, sir.
So, and that's a good thing. I mean, again, most of the powerlifters are multi-sport, but then you also still get some kids that's all they do, and that's fine. At least they find their niche and they find something that they can be good at or at least compete at. And like I said, Coach Roberts has done a good job with that, and I just gave you 2 names. But there's more than that. Justin Burt's is another one. He's our starting center. He's a good powerlifter. But it's interesting to see how much that has grown to where now we have 2 or 3 junior high powerlifting meets at the end of the year.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So overall, sports are cool. All that's great. So can you shed a little bit of spotlight about kids on the field, but also involved very heavily in their academics? Some kids that do very well in your classrooms.
Yes. Well, one we already mentioned, Jacoby Lozano does a good job. Lyndon Fraley does a good job. He's starting for us on the defensive side of the ball for the 3rd year in a row. RJ Gomez. I mean, I could list a lot of kids They do a good job. Now, does everybody? No. But again, we're here to help them. Again, it's more about over in the school building than it is for football. So obviously you don't pass, you don't play.
Correct.
So we really harbor in on that. And then of course, if they don't want to go to college, they still want to get a high school diploma.
Yes, sir.
And then whatever path they chose, hopefully we've set them up, or help set them up to where they've learned some work ethic and get back upness and stuff like that, to where when it happens or when they need to go get a job, they'll be ready to go.
Yes, sir. Well, Coach Williams and Steer Nation, that's pretty much going to wrap it up for today. I hope y'all enjoyed this podcast. My goal is every week to touch in with local athletes and coaches around the Permian Basin, Howard County, just all around. Here soon, I'll be joined by Coach Cannon's father, Mr. McWilliams. So I will add that in here shortly. But as from all of us watching, thank you, Coach, for taking your time
Thank you very
and doing
much.
this.
Thanks for doing
Yes,
it,
sir.
man.